Nolan, good to see you. Today we are sharing 5 quick tips for young investors. It's so hard to picture our lives 40 or 50 years into the future. There are so many reasons young adults put off saving for retirement. So, what should step number one be for any young adult who's now graduated and working?
Yeah, new graduates who are now working, priority number one just always has to be your emergency fund.
Hmm.
Your emergency fund is stop number one when looking at your finances because if you encounter a $500, $1,000, $2,000 emergency, you don't want to put it on a credit card
Right.
or deplete your entire savings. So
Mhm.
that's usually step number one. And for a good emergency fund, we usually recommend between 3 and 6 months worth of expenses. And that's priority number one for young investors for sure.
Because those emergencies, they do come up. We know it, Nolan.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to talk through the eighth wonder of the world, compounding interest. And this is something, Nolan, that I wish I'd known a little bit more about when I was in my 20s.
Yeah, compound interest is the phenomenon that is just the interest that you earn on the interest that you've earned over time. If you look at this chart, you can see the principal investment, which is the dark green shaded area towards the bottom. Most of that principal just stays about the same over a
Right.
30-year contribution period. But you can see as your interest without compounding starts to accumulate, then you can see compound interest or interest that's earned on the interest you've earned start to make a difference.
Mhm.
And over 20, 30, 40 years, as you're working and putting money into a 401k, this compound interest is really what makes you wealthy and creates large balances in those retirement accounts that you don't necessarily get the benefit of with just taxable brokerage accounts that hold individual stocks.
Right. So now let's talk through those 5 quick tips. And the first one you say, track your budget.
Yeah, your budget's the most important thing you can possibly construct, I guess, when you're trying to evaluate your finances. Just figuring out how much money needs to go out every month in order to make your life livable. And that's really what you need to base everything based on. Your budget's what you base retirement expenses on, it's what you base your emergency fund on. And being very familiar with your budget and understanding where you can be flexible is really important.
Yeah, good habit to get into. Next, you say set aside money for big expenses. What does that mean exactly?
Big expenses would be the larger things once once you're graduated, once you get a job, such as a wedding, when
Mm.
you're having kids, when you're buying a house, maybe buying a second property eventually once you're into your later years, higher earning years. These are all things that you need to plan for, and if you set aside money for, you don't necessarily need to tap into retirement savings in order to make all of your financial dreams come true.
Right. Next, you say open and contribute to a Roth account. This, Nolan, if I lament one thing that I didn't do, this was it.
Yeah, I didn't do one soon enough. I'm,
Right.
happy that, I at least have some in there now, but a
Hmm.
Roth account is an account that all the money that you put into it is after tax. And the main benefit of it is it's an IRA, meaning an individual retirement account, which gets the tax benefit of not being taxed on the gains in the account. There are a couple strings attached to it. It depends on age and how long the account's been open. But the primary benefit of the Roth is that you get that compound interest and then you never have to pay tax on it. So opening up a Roth IRA after you've established your budget, your emergency fund, and some of the other things we've talked about, that can really create transformational wealth, especially if it remains tax-free over our lifetime and the government
Hmm.
doesn't change any of the rules, which they could always do, but we hope not for sure.
Yes, I don't even want to speak that into the world. All right. Next, you say contribute to a 401k.
Yeah, the 401k is the next stop after the Roth. The 401k, usually you can try as you're working to get close to maxing out each year. The typical mantra is to put between 10 and 20% of your earnings into
Hmm.
retirement portfolios each year, and your 401k is one of those. So
Hmm.
take advantage of the employer match. If you have
Hmm.
Roth option in your 401k, it's usually a pretty good idea to have some Roth money going into your 401k, but then trying to get close to maxing that out as you get closer to retirement and start to earn a good wage over time.
Hmm. And last, you say focus on the long term.
Yeah, and long term, not 5 to 10 years from now, which seems like an eternity based on how the last couple of years, I guess, have been going. But we're talking 10, 20, 30 years. So, what really does wealth need to look like? What systems are in place right now that might change over that time frame, like Social Security or pensions or taxes or things like that? And just making sure that your portfolio is adaptable to those things over time and that you're proactive to these changes so they don't catch you off guard.
Mhm. Now, this should be a required viewing for every young person. I wish I'd had this conversation with you a long time ago, Nolan. This is really helpful. If somebody has any questions, how can they reach you?
So by phone, 616-301-2581, or our website, cornerstone-rp.com. And then there's a contact us box at the bottom of the homepage. And we'll,
All
we'll
right.
help with anything for sure.
Yes. Nolan, thank you.
Thank you, Erin.